What's up, you guys? Last Dance 3 and 4 on the SRS Wrestling channel. You know, the channel that we can't make any money off of.
Sign up to FIFO Select so we can make some money.
Yes,
And look at this hair, Sean.
look
It
at
needs
mine.
it needs it cut.
I got mine cut last week, but we're here to talk The Last Dance, episodes 3 and 4. I'm loving the 2-episode per week format because each time, there's no way I could be satisfied with just 45 minutes of this a week.
Yeah, the having it back to back is great because after the first episode airs, I'm always wanting more, and then you get more, and then unfortunately you gotta wait a week to get the next episode. But I like that they are doing 2 episodes a week as well. 10 weeks trying to wait for this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, they covered the Bad Boy Pistons, and you watched Bad Boys 2, which is longer than this entire documentary completely. I always like the idea of the Bad Boys movies a lot more than the movies in execution.
Oh, how dare you. Bad Boys 2 is a complete classic. It's long,
It's
sure,
way too
but
long.
it's still really good.
A funny, well, not a funny story, a miserable story about that. Back when it came out on DVD, I had a girl over and she watched it, and it was one of those, oh, let's see if we're interested in each other's things. We definitely weren't, but we were being courteous and waiting for the movie to end, and it felt like it took like a year for that to end. And I was like, why did I pick this movie? I could have picked The Rundown or something that was like just trying to
Oh, the
trying to stopwatch it for 90 minutes.
The Rundown's another good movie. I
Are we
should
not
have my
men? Christopher Walken's
I
amazing.
should have my wife watch it. We picked Bad Boys too because she wanted to see something she's never seen, and it was
Yeah.
on Netflix, and I was like, well, this is a funny movie that kind of doesn't stop. And once she saw Jerry Bruckheimer and Michael Bay, she's like, I don't know about this, but she was into it.
I watched The Fugitive this weekend with, I can't remember who it was, Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford. There you go.
Yeah.
I watched that this weekend, so, I feel pretty happy with what I did. But I watched The Last Dance last night. It covered Dennis Rodman. It covered a little more of 97, 98, obviously. It covered Phil Jackson. It covered the Bad Boys Pistons. And we got our first look at Horace Grant, which was pretty cool. So Dennis Rodman, the thing is, I'm glad that they didn't devote an insane amount of time to his background because he's been covered to death in the last couple of years, especially. But what do you think of how they handled that?
I didn't know Dennis Rodman played basketball in Oklahoma growing up. I don't think anybody would have gathered that by the superstar Dennis Rodman has become. Like, yeah, just a small town kid from Oklahoma out here now dyeing his hair and wearing dresses and dating Madonna.
And
It's kind of nuts.
I had no idea that he was as good in college, even his college, as he was. Like, he averaged almost 26 points a game, which is unbelievable to even think now because if you're firing up 2K, do not shoot the rock with Dennis
No,
Rodman from
no.
any distance, even right by the hoop. It ain't going to go in. The only way that you can make it go in is if it's one of those automated tips that just happens. It's really
Dunks.
crazy.
Dunks is about all Rodman can do. I actually get frustrated using him in 2K because I'll hit him on the pick and roll and he just misses everything. And I'm just like, he cannot be this bad.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you see the old footage, it's like he had a little bit of a touch there.
Yeah.
I was like, where did that go? And I looked back because, I only knew Rodman of San Antonio Spurs and the Bulls and what happened after that. I didn't even know him as a Detroit Piston. I didn't realize that he averaged like 11 points a game in his second season. Like and shot 56% from the field and did that for quite a while. He wasn't that like 4 or 5 points a game type of guy that would maybe shoot the ball 3 or 4 times a game until he got to San Antonio and Chicago. So I think that Dennis Rodman deserves a little bit more love from 2K. They're too busy making WWE arcade games, as you said, that look like they're from mobile, than getting his stats right, Jeremy.
That WWE game looks like trash. I'm just gonna say it. It does not look good.
Yep. Yeah, it sure
Does
does.
not look good at all. I'm with you. boost Rodman's offensive stats in 2K, but then that Bulls team that I'm using might be even more unbeatable, and I don't know if they want to quite do that, so they got to juice down somebody. Rodman is a guy who, I mean, could he have been better offensively like during his Bulls run? Maybe, but they had Jordan, they had Pippen, they had some shooters, and even before he got to the Bulls, Rodman just decided, I'm going to rebound, I'm going to play defense, and I'm going to do this at the highest level possible. And he's stuck with that. And you have to admire something like that because you see guys nowadays, there's so many guys who are just kind of like out of the league because they want to try to do everything and be a star and like just carve a role out for yourself and you can stick around in the league forever. Like Vince Carter has adapted and done it. Jared Dudley still has a place in the league because he can just shoot threes as a stretch four and he's a good guy in the locker room. So they're like, all right, we'll give Jared Dudley a 20-year contract.
Fun fact, Dennis Rodman shot 100 threes one year. It was 91-92. He did it at a 31% clip. Back then.
That's really bad. Russell Westbrook is jealous of that three-point percentage.
Yeah. Today, he's shooting a smooth 36-37%. Because back then, it's so much different. We talked about the difference between the three-point game back then. Also, he never made an all-star team as a Bull or a Spur, which is shocking to me to even think about. But when you've got like 7 people on each all-star team, then you're gonna have some teams that are left out here and there. But
he would have been multiple-time all-star. He'd be in the Draymond Green role where he's probably not an all-star and he's not going to lead a team, but he was on a team that won 72 games, and so like you got to give that team 3 all-stars.
Yeah. And Dennis Rodman, like we see about his upbringing and stuff, and again we've heard about that. We see the college stuff. Back then, so my one part I laughed at was when they drafted him. They go, the youngster Dennis Rodman, and I'm like, wasn't that young? He was 25 when he got drafted, which is unbelievable to think now. But because I was trying to explain that to my wife, I'm like, most people are getting drafted at 19 now.
Yeah.
So, at 25, that's when like a lot of teams will fish bait. Got to build towards the future, type of thing. It's like crazy to look at stuff like that doesn't really happen as much today unless they're Euro stashes and they come over. But I liked seeing Dennis Rodman acclimating to that situation because it was like the defensive version of Michael Jordan. Like he didn't really fit in with the pieces around him, but then he made it work and succeeded as a result. And that led to the Bad Boys Pistons, and there's still a lot of bad blood there, and I love it.
That was the best part. I think even from the first 2 episodes, like this was the best stuff to me is Isaiah, John Sally, Horace Grant, Jordan, all these guys just talking about that how they hated each other. And it was so like when they showed clips of Isaiah to Jordan, and that's already become a meme, like Jordan watching the Isaiah clip and everything, like that stuff was so good to me. And and Horace Grant's like fucking babies and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's it was great to see how much Michael Jordan still disliked Isaiah Thomas. And like we see a lot of the stuff where they had the walking off the court after the Pistons got beat, and I saw a lot of people say, well, the Celtics walked off for fear of their own safety or something like that, and I'm like, I don't know. Were people really throwing batteries and getting stabbed back then like it was Puerto Rican wrestling? I don't think so. I think Larry Bird was going to be just fine. But still, the Bulls had went and shaken their hands, shookened their hands back-to-back years after getting beat. When I see that, I'm like, I don't really care that much, but I do see why the Bulls were like, fuck them.
I think the Pistons try to justify it in that the Celtics did it to us, we're going to do it to them. Yeah. The problem with that is the Bulls did shake their hands the last 2 years. So, like, this is the team you've been battling. At least have the respect to, like, shake their hands. Like, not only they walk off before the final buzzer. There's still 7 seconds left, and they're like, we're out of here. I don't hate it, honestly, because rivalries in sports are great. Like we don't need everybody being friends and stuff. I just thought their justification for it of, well, the Celtics did it to us, was a little weak.
And it was, the thing is, it was almost stupid in that, like, did they remember what happened to the Celtics after that? They were still a good team. They were still winning games, but they weren't going back to the conference finals after that. Like, that was like the looking back at it, the marked end of the Celtics as the title contender there. They were going to, I think, maybe the first round, second round for the next few years. And again, they still had Larry Bird. They were still good for a few years. But that effectively did the same thing to the Pistons. Because if you look from that, I think maybe the year before, boy, those wins go down year by year until they get to 20. And Isaiah Thomas is like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm 32. I'm over the hill. I can't possibly play anymore. So I thought that was pretty telling that spelled both the end of the Celtics and the Pistons as title contenders. All that. Michael Jordan always shook hands.
And look what happened to him. He just kept winning titles.
Did Jerry Krause not sign or hand? I'm too flustered. I got ahead of myself talking about signing and handshakes and Jerry Krause. Now all I want to talk about is Jerry Krause dancing.
That scene was amazing. Him dancing, and it was out of place because like they just recapped the 3 titles before they even recapped the 1, and yes, they're dancing on the plane and stuff. But it was great, and it looked like, oh man, Jerry Krause is like actually kind of like bonding with these guys and having fun. And then Scottie Pippen just takes a shot at him and is like, get out of here, Jerry.
I loved it. Yeah, just out of nowhere, they're like, boom. Here's Scott Burrell being an alcoholic, according to Michael Jordan.
At least that was at least 97, 98 stuff, yeah, which was the best stuff. It was after the Super Bowl, and Jordan is just going off on him.
It was I like the time jumps. I really dig that. So we're going in and out of this stuff, and just I feel like they added that in just because they had this footage of Scott Burrell making a shot shortly thereafter. They're like, we got to set the stage so these people know who this guy is. And he's an alcoholic. And I loved how concerned he was. He's like, Michael, no, Michael, my parents, they're going to see this. They can't know that I have slept with a woman and drank an alcohol in my day. Scott Burrell.
I want Bill Winnington's cam footage of that parade and that plane ride and everything.
He's probably out there doing the Cabbage Patch. Like he's dancing like Mark Madsen was a few years later. He's somewhere in between Juwan Howard at Michigan dancing and Mark Madsen of the Lakers dancing. Like I feel like there'd be some hybrid. I went to Nashville once, which is funny. Dennis Rodman has no interest in going there based on this documentary. But there was a man on the streets dressed as Bill Winnington, and I was the only person who knew it. Like he had a wig, he had the short shorts. I've got video of it somewhere. I'm gonna have to publish it.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah, and for some reason I was walking around Nashville vlogging, singing like I was a funk singer. I'm not sure, but I was like, Bill Winnington. He was a member of the Bulls. So we got Scott Burrell, the alcoholic. We got Dennis Rodman, the overachiever.
Why doesn't Dennis Rodman want to go to Nashville? What's your theory on this?
My wife thought it might have been because there are a lot of white racist people, but in my experience there, it's a pretty accepting crowd. But then again, you know, I'm a white dude, so I can't really speak to that. Nashville was pleasant when I went.
I wonder if he's just like dated all the country singers and he's just not welcome back into Nashville. Because this was in the 90s, so I'd imagine Reba, Faith, all these people. Rodman was probably with them in some capacity.
The story of Rodman's vacation is amazing. That was the highlight of all this for me. And let me tell you, this was a good couple episodes.
I like he just goes to Phil. They pull Michael over. He's like, I just need a vacation. And Jordan knew. He's very concerned. We give this guy a vacation, ain't coming back. And Phil's like, 48 hours? 48 hours. All right, cool. Good deal.
So did Michael Jordan go get him in Vegas?
Yeah.
But well, here's the thing. Michael's like, he's going on a vacation. I'm going on a vacation. And probably went and gambled like $4 million away. But Carmen Electra, them getting her for this, that is amazing. And she was like, oh, I was in the room. I was just hiding from Michael Jordan. That is amazing. That's outstanding.
Carmen Electra, 49, still spectacular. I don't know what she's doing, but it's amazing. It was great that they got her. Yeah, she hid when she heard the knock on the door. She's like, I ain't messing with Michael. The Rodman stuff is very fascinating. I can't wait until they get the playoff stuff and they hopefully touch on him doing wrestling and stuff, because him just in the middle of the season, Scotty's back. Rodman wasn't doing so well. He went to Jordan's hotel room. He apologized. He's like, all right, let's do this. Let's get it. He started playing some great basketball. Scotty's back, and Rodman's just like, I need a vacation. I worked hard for these 2 months that Scotty was out. I got to go on vacation now. Scotty's back. We're good.
So, yeah, that was the thing when they talked about Scotty coming back and how Dennis just kind of lost his passion. And he even said that. He was like, I felt like the third wheel. He felt motivated by just being wanted and needed in a different role than he was actually in. And I really enjoyed Scotty's take on this as well, because when you have Scotty chiming in on this stuff, when he wasn't really around, I thought that was kind of cool. You see him talk about, or Rodman talk about how he judges the ball. Oh my God. Like, I went to college with Kenneth Fareed, so I would hear him talk about a lot of that stuff too. Another amazing rebounder, all-time leading rebounder in the NCAA. And he would talk about these unconventional methods that he developed to be able to become a rebounder. And I would listen to Dennis Rodman, and I'm like, man, you got to be cut from the same cloth to do that type of thing, because it was very similar in that regard. I don't know if people today can really gather how good he was at stuff like that. It's just the man was tenacious.
It really, and this is the thing where this is what he decided to focus on.
Yeah.
You look at the guys nowadays. Take Steven Adams, for example, great rebounder. And if he just put all his energy into that, like, he could probably be an all-time great rebounder, but you got to have post moves. They're actually trying to like stretch him out to do like 3-point shots and stuff. You got to work on the floater and the paint and all this stuff. Rodman's just like, I'm going to play defense. I'm going to learn all the coverages. I'm going to get on the same page there. I'm just going to rebound. He wasn't worried about developing post moves or being a stretch four or anything like that. He carved out his role and he did it to the absolute highest level.
And we would see the bad boys teams, and goddamn, I miss how physical that was. I love it.
I texted my friend and I was like, this bad boys team would have just messed up like the Splash Warriors. Like the Splash Warriors, they would have just brutalized them.
I love it. I loved how physical that was. And you always see the things. There are always going to be those comparisons. Today's players are soft. Back then they played against podiatrists, all kinds of stupid shit like that. But I mean, to me, it was different enough to where today's teams could probably dominate at today's game, and back then their teams would have probably had the edge, I think, in that type of game, just because it was played so different. And Dennis Rodman mentioned that. He was like, back then, we could get away with anything. You could beat up people on the floor and not even get a technical called. That's wild to even look at.
That shove that Rodman gave Pippen, that I wish they'd asked Rodman or Pippen about that. I wanted a soundbite of them talking about that. But like that little shove, which looked really scary, that's definitely a flagrant one nowadays. And maybe Rodman, he's probably built up enough flagrants at this point that he's suspended for an entire season. But they're just like common foul. That's what it was back then.
So a little bit of a fun fact as I look through some numbers here. I look and I see January 21st did not dress. January 23rd, not with team for Dennis Rodman. I'm going to assume that's the vacation because Scottie Pippen came back 10 days before. The game before that, he played 35 minutes and only had 5 rebounds. His mind was not in the
It
game.
was out.
7 assists, though. So he was just like, deal with this shit, Michael. He comes back 0-5 from the field, 0 for 5 from the field, but 14 boards, 1 for 4 from the field, 22 rebounds, 20
Jesus.
rebounds, 22 rebounds. They got Dennis Rodman back. He needed the vacation.
We just need to go to Vegas to get your mind right and hang out with Carmen Electra, and that cures everything, apparently. I just want to know what it said on the game sheet, when the lineup sheet. Dennis Rodman Vegas vacation. Is that what it said for him?
Oh my God, I could just see. Like, you ever watch Major League where Pedro Serrano wants a chicken and the catcher brings in a bucket of chicken? Like, I could just see Phil Jackson walking in with a Game Boy and a cassette of Vegas steaks in the background. He's like, here you go, Dennis. Here's Las Vegas for you all the time. I hope it works for you. Oh,
Phil Jackson was a big dude when he played.
Oh, yeah.
That dude was a
I
monster.
didn't know he was such a scumbag, throwing those elbows and everything. And one of the things I liked most, they got way into Native American culture on this. I was like, all right, cool. But that's how he and Dennis Rodman bonded. But I love the looks at him coaching. Was it Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
The best story was I guess a government official shot a referee in the leg.
And his punishment was he couldn't come to any more home games that season. Come on, man. Come on. Jesus. So one, have you seen the video of Pippen getting dragged off the court yet?
No.
I would show you if I wouldn't get taken down. So Pippen gets laid out, right? And it's right by the baseline. And the ref just grabs him by the jersey and drags him out of bounds. Just no movement. It is amazing. I think Dre Horizon sent it to me, but oh, Jesus, I saw that and I was like, that's how I miss the game being played. Give me some good old Adam Sandler versus Michael Irvin from The Longest Yard physicality. That's what I want out of basketball these days. And the thing is, if it was like that these days, LeBron might even be more dominant.
And LeBron's a physical special. This is what I mean with the Splash Warriors is people were like, LeBron was too physical. Matthew Dellavedova was too physical on Steph. Like, they think Matthew Dellavedova is too physical. Imagine Isaiah and all these guys on like Steph and Clay. Like, they would not hold up at all.
I thought it was Dellavedova.
I don't know what it is, but
Dellavedova?
look, the man earned himself like a $20 million contract just because he played next to LeBron and did well against Steph Curry for a series.
Right? Also, one of the things that I really enjoyed was how they would show Dennis Rodman locking down a lot of people on the Bulls.
Yeah.
And then you see him playing with the Bulls. That's incredible. I really like that. And the way that Jordan would talk to Rodman as opposed to everybody else, you could see that Jordan accepted him for who he was. He was like, I know why he's here. This is what we're doing. And you saw them breaking down plays and all that stuff. And I like that. Even after he came back from Vegas, Jordan was at practice like, we got him back. You can't ask for a lot more than that.
They're talking about, they're running the laps, and Jordan's like, great, I got to be part of Dennis's physical training to get back in shape. And Rodman's outrunning all of these dudes. Rodman's going full sprint. And it's like, this dude just went on a 48-hour and bender in Vegas, more than that. And then he just shows up to practice and he's still outworking everybody. It's like, oh my God.
Like when I heard the 48 hours thing, I was like, oh, they didn't have a couple games scheduled. Oh, no, they did. They had 2 games scheduled during that period. And I'm like, how could that be a thing? Like, I'm shocked when I look. And by the way, the Bulls won both games. One of them by 31 points. The other one by 2 points. So probably could have used him a little bit there. But you had to lean on Luke Longley and Jason Caffey a little more than you'd be comfortable with in those games. Do you think we get any Luke Longley talk?
I I hope we get some Kukoc talk in the next episode because I think he was a very underrated part of that team, and obviously the story of Pippen and Jordan busting on him at the Olympics because Krause wanted to bring him over and whatnot. Speaking of Krause, it wasn't as bad this week with all the dunking on him,
And we heard
but
from him, kind of.
yeah. One thing that like I still think is underplayed is he made the move to bring Rodman in, which doesn't seem like it was really his move anyway. He wasn't really a big fan of it. But the coaching change from Doug Collins to Phil Jackson was a pretty big deal. And they talked a lot about it of like Jordan, Jordan loved playing with Collins because the ball was in his hand all the time and he could just do whatever he wants. And you bring in Phil, you get the triangle. It's like, you don't have to do all this stuff. And then obviously they have the clip at the end where they beat I think it was the Lakers of, Paxson's open on all this stuff. Like find him the ball. Like they're going to collect. And this is like basketball 101 nowadays. A great driver drives, kicks to an open man. Like back then it wasn't really a thing. But what'd you make of just Collins being replaced, Jordan being upset, Phil coming in, and like Krause's decision to actually do that?
I like that. I mean, that gave Krause an awful lot of credit because it straight up said Krause believed in Tex and he believed in Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson wasn't going to get hired. He told Phil Jackson how to dress to get hired, and then they made it work. Like, I think that's awesome. I think that's great. I look back at that and I'm like, all right, that's one of the good Jerry Krause moves, but I am still of the belief when you look at those teams that Jordan was surrounded by, even with the 3-4 guys that he had, they could have done a whole lot better than what they did. Oh my God. It was a wasteland around there. Now, I get it. Like, when Jordan leaves, like, you pick Corey Blunt or whoever you pick, there weren't a lot of great options after that immediately. But when the Bulls were picking like Will Perdue and Stacey King, like a lot of these guys that should have been a lot better, like Jerry Krause has got to there's got to be a lot of blame cast right there because if they had more support and if they had drafted better, I feel like maybe they could have ended up winning the year before that they did. But but also if he had done that, do they even switch to Phil Jackson? If Doug Collins wins a title, they ain't switching to Phil Jackson.
Yeah, if the Bulls get over the hump, one thing that wasn't touched on in this in the documentary is the '89 series against the Pistons. Mm-hmm. Jordan, the one game where he took like 5 shots or something, because Doug Collins even criticized him after, I think game 3, he had like a terrible shooting night and Collins was like, yeah, he forced a lot of stuff, whatever. And Jordan was just like, all right, I'm going to pass the ball. He had like 9 assists and he took like 5 shots. It was very Kobe against the Suns-esque. And I mean, Collins was fired right after that, after they lost the series, but like that wasn't touched upon at all. And I probably because Jordan has control, he's like, yeah, we're not talking about that. But
I love to look at Ron Harper too, talking about the shot and Craig Elo.
Do you think Ron Harper was going to lock up Jordan? Ron Harper is lucky he wasn't on Jordan because it would have just been him in that picture instead of Craig Elo.
For sure. Yeah, but man. And as I'm looking through the draft, because I mentioned like some of the moves that Krause made, you got to give Krause credit for this one. 1990, round 2, pick 29, Tony Kukoc. Didn't get him for 4 or 5 years, but it paid off in the end.
It paid off, except he alienated the bad blood probably started before this.
Yeah.
But he alienated the 2 guys because he's like, Kukoc is going to come in and just take over the league and all this stuff. And Jordan and Pippen felt very disrespected by that. And the end of the episode 4, where Krause is like, yeah, Phil's not coming back. If Michael's not coming back, then, we'll deal with that. Like the timing of all this was just so like his media relations and personal relations with Phil, the pettiness there. They could have kept this team together at least another year.
Oh, yeah.
And probably won another title. Like, I know the Spurs won that year. Young Duncan, old Robinson, they ain't beating Jordan's Bulls.
Yeah,
Like,
I
no
agree.
offense to that team, they ain't beating Jordan's Bulls.
And I think if we're talking about '98, they're probably getting rid of Ron Harper after that year. He ain't sticking around. I don't think that he would have been there. Kukoc would have been better. So I'm like, I look up and down at their pieces and what they had and the deals that they had. Like, Bill Whittington ain't hanging around. He's going to hit the bricks after that season. Like, there's probably going to be a lot of changes there. And I think that they could have found someone better than Luke Longley to stand in the middle while everybody else do things.
If you had Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, and Kukoc, just fill in the pieces around those guys. Like, even though they were at the tail end of their careers, they would have been fine. And the Knicks made the finals that year, right?
Yeah.
Like the Bulls would have beaten the Knicks, and then they would have beaten the Spurs. I'm not doubting Michael Jordan because he was still playing at an extremely high level when he retired.
So that's the last dance. Anything that we didn't touch on?
No, I think that was everything. I mean, Isaiah is still bitter
Yeah,
about
I love
stuff.
it. I love how much they hate each other. He was doing a media thing a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Jordan's not the best player ever," and I'm like, you mad, you mad. I love it.
Isaiah Isaiah Thomas nowadays is catching strays out here on social media. He's getting
Yeah,
tagged. It's like the white John Jones getting tagged on all this stuff
it's
when the UFC
great.
fighter
Like, come
gets.
on, man, change your name up a little bit. Like, you have, it's ain't new to him. Like, he can't Google himself. For the love of God, like on any given day, you'll get one or the other popping up.
It's spelled differently. People just need to learn how to spell. That's what it
Yeah,
comes
but
down
people
to.
people aren't gonna decide where the I's and the A's and all that stuff go. I mean, it's eh, eh. There's an extra A in the new Isaiah Thomas's name. I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. There you go. You know how to do that, but you don't. What name didn't you pronounce right earlier?
Deladova? Is it
Delavadova?
Deladova?
Delavadova?
Deladova? And
Damn.
I know how to spell Antetokounmpo like perfectly. At least I used to. I haven't typed it in so long. I probably forgot. But I had to type that name so much
Yeah.
when basketball was a legitimate thing that took place regularly that I could type it perfectly. And I was very proud when I was able to do that.
That's how Jędrzejczyk was for me for UFC. But yeah, The Last Dance. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll try to do these every week, considering if we have time. But until next time, guys, we're out.